The stars blinked cold and distant above Earth, indifferent to the terror unfolding below. It started with a low hum, subsonic, almost inaudible, but it grew, vibrating through oceans and mountains, resonating in bones and satellites. Then came the shadow. A vessel unlike anything humanity had ever recorded eclipsed the moon in full view of every major observatory on the planet. It stretched beyond the limits of reason, dark and angular, its surface absorbing light as though space itself recoiled from it. The global networks went silent for 6.4 seconds. Then every screen, every device, every frequency, every wavelength flickered into synchronized display. A single voice, heavily modulated, neither masculine nor feminine, echoed through the world. People of Earth, you are summoned. The throne of Khartoum claims dominion over your system. Surrender in 48 Earth hours or face annihilation. No threats, no negotiations. Just that. Panic didn't come in waves. It erupted in an instant. Markets crashed. Communications fractured. Civilian broadcasts were overridden by emergency signals. Fighter jets scrambled not to attack, but to confirm that yes, something was there, and it was beyond any defense humanity had conceived. At the North American Emergency Coordination Center buried beneath Colorado granite, President Angela Mbeki watched the looping transmission in silence. Her advisors shouted over one another, military assessments, threat profiles, countermeasure evaluations, all of it noise. "We need options, General Hartford," she said, her voice steady despite the thunder in her chest. The general, a man molded by 40 years of conventional warfare, responded with haunted eyes. "Madam President, we have no defense. No missiles that would scratch that hull. No fleet to meet theirs. Earth is exposed." She turned to the science liaison. "And diplomacy? They won't respond. All we've received is a rigid countdown signal. Autonomous, recursive, non-reactive, like a doomsday clock." Becky nodded once, more for herself than anyone else. "Then anyone, needs to give me a different answer." Half a world away, in a forgotten orbital hangar tethered to the ruins of old Anchorage Station, Commander Celine Ward sat alone in the dark, watching the same broadcast on a dusty terminal. Her uniform hadn't been regulation in years, but the badge on her chest still bore the insignia of Earth's now-defunct Outer Defense Initiative. She ran callous fingers through short, silver-streaked hair as she leaned back against the bulkhead. "They finally came," she whispered. Behind her, a panel creaked open. Dr. Elias Cale entered, arms full of tools and hard drives. "You saw it?" "I saw it." Same voice as the Anders transmissions 5 years ago. Only now it's not just chatter. It's a war call. Cale set down his equipment, his expression grim. "They gave us 2 days. We'll be lucky to last 2 hours if they decide to act." Celine stood and approached the viewport. The Earth below rotated silently, brilliant and blue and impossibly fragile. "They won't wait. Not unless something stops them." Cale hesitated. "You don't mean—" "I do." "You still believe in that myth?" "I believe in contingency," she snapped. "And I believe in not dying." He looked away, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Even if the Black Fleet ever existed, they vanished for a reason. Celine's eyes didn't leave the window. "Then it's time we find out why." In the depths of the Global Intelligence Archives, a silent algorithm tracked an anomalous string, an encrypted key embedded in the alien transmission. It pulsed in harmonic sequence with a dormant file last accessed 23 years ago. Protocol Umbra, Earth sovereignty override. The system flagged it for presidential clearance. Back in the command bunker, Becky read the decrypted summary with widening eyes. Project Blackfleet. Classified rogue defense initiative, deemed non-viable and abandoned after the Treaty of Seoul Accord. She read it twice, then a third time, her lips forming the words in silence. The file named 2 surviving officers. One of them was Commander Celine Ward. She didn't hesitate. Find her. The storm moved quickly. Unmanned satellites fell silent. The Martian relay colony went offline. The moon's Lagrange stations registered massive gravitational distortions. And then the countdown ticked past its first full hour. Celine's shuttle launched in stealth mode from the Anchorage hangar, its cloak barely operational, Its fuel reserves lower than she'd like, but speed was secondary. She and Kale knew that if they were going to do this, they'd need time, and Earth wasn't offering much of it. I picked up a surge on the lunar dark side, Kale said from the co-pilot seat. Looks like Empire Tech is already mapping orbital trajectories. They're not mapping, Celine said. They're targeting. Kale looked over at her. Why would they give us a deadline if they're just going to fire anyway? Because this isn't war, it's subjugation. They want the illusion of choice. That makes compliance easier for most species. You've studied them? No, Celine replied, eyes fixed ahead. I survived them. In her youth, she had commanded an exploratory fleet beyond Neptune. Her crew had encountered remnants of civilizations consumed by the throne of Khartoon. No survivors. No resistance. Just silent systems and decaying atmospheres. She reported what she'd seen. They called her paranoid. Reassigned her. Eventually, discharged her. Now her nightmares had come to dock at Earth's door. They approached Titan Station 2 hours later, where the last whisper of Umbra Protocol had been logged. The station silhouette drifted against the rings of Saturn, dead for over a decade. I hope this isn't a ghost chase, Kale muttered. It's not, she said, guiding the shuttle toward a service hatch. It's a graveyard. But graves sometimes hold more than bones. The docking clamps hissed. The interior was sealed in vacuum. The halls cold and motionless. They moved with purpose, flashlights slicing the dark. In the main archive core, Celine activated her command code. The system blinked once. Then a low thrum rippled through the station. "Welcome, Commander Ward," said a static, heavy voice. Umbra Protocol override initiated. Kale stared. "It's still alive." Celine nodded. "Part of it. Enough of it." A holographic interface emerged from the dust. "The Black Fleet awaits." Kale's voice was barely a whisper. "It's real." "And it's asleep," Celine replied. "We're going to wake it." The hologram flickered and expanded, displaying star charts, coordinates far beyond Pluto. A location cloaked in a gravitational anomaly. "Why there?" Kale asked. Celine's eyes narrowed. "Because that's where we buried our last good idea." Kale activated a data transfer. "I'll need hours to extract this." "You have one," Celine said. "Because when the Empire fires again, there won't be anything left to save." She left him there, walking to the observation deck. The stars seemed to stare back, indifferent still, perhaps, but maybe not for long. Below, Earth glimmered like a fragile gem under the weight of a colossal boot. And Celine Ward, stripped of rank, reputation, and recognition, resolved not to let it be crushed. Not without a fight. The countdown reached 38 hours. The Black Fleet stirred. The dead zone beyond Neptune was a place most charts marked with a blank line or a soft red warning. Navigational hazard, gravitational anomalies, no recorded resources, no strategic value, which made it the perfect place to hide a myth. Celine Ward stood at the edge of Titan Station's central interface as the shuttle powered through the dark. The coordinates retrieved from Umbra's core had triangulated a fixed point far past the Kuiper Belt, a void space known only by its old designation, Sector Theta 9. She watched the starlight warp slightly ahead of them, gravity ripples, slow and unnatural. Something was definitely there. Kale was focused on the readouts, his hands moving quickly across the console. Every sensor is screaming. Gravitational distortion is off the charts. We're lucky we haven't been torn apart. Luck had nothing to do with it, Celine said, adjusting their heading. This region is artificially masked. Someone built it to push away curious minds. Kale frowned, which means they didn't want anyone finding what we're heading toward. They broke through the distortion field 20 minutes later. The silence hit first. A sudden absence of system alerts, ship noise, even the hum of engines. Space went quiet. Then the sight emerged like a dream from deep shadow. It was a fleet, at least 24 ships massive matte black, held in perfect formation. They hovered above Cyclopean Ring Station, suspended in a strange stillness. No lights, no movement, just presence. Each vessel was different in design, but shared a brutal symmetry, with sharp hulls and hidden weapon systems that suggested a level of technology well beyond Earth's. Kale leaned forward. They're dormant. They're waiting, Celine said. For what? She unbuckled her harness. A signal, a voice they recognize. Inside the ring station, the airlock protested under age and pressure. The passageways were lined with alien alloys, metal surfaces that absorbed their flashlight beams. The architecture was angular, constructed more for function than beauty, though there was a deliberate elegance to silence. The station was dead, but not abandoned. At the heart of the station, they found it, the command core. A crystalline sphere floated above a triangular dais, pulsing faintly. Kale approached first. Some kind of AI housing? Looks older than the fleet itself. Celine nodded. This is Obsidian Prime. Central control system. It was supposed to go offline after the fleet entered stasis. He hesitated, then reached into his pack and retrieved the encrypted key from Titan's archive. When he connected it to the interface, the station shuddered. The sphere flared to life. Lights burst across the walls in geometric sequence. A voice followed, calm, resonant, and unmistakably sentient. Authentication accepted. Commander Celine Ward. Protocol Umbra reactivated. Kale stepped back. It knows you. I helped design it, she said quietly. Obsidian Prime online, the voice continued. Black Fleet condition, dormant, awaiting directives. Celine stepped forward. Can the fleet be deployed? Affirmative. Operational integrity, 72%. Power reserves, 34%. Time since last command, 4,212 years. Kale blinked. Wait, what? That's not possible. The fleet's not just pre-Empire. It predates human civilization. Celine didn't answer. She was watching the interface carefully, her breath shallow. The lie had gone deeper than she thought. Obsidian Prime continued. Current tactical context. High-priority override signal from Earth origin. Empire-class dreadnought identified. Designation, Voltari Ascendant. Threat level, extermination grade. Earth defenseless. Engagement protocols authorized. Kale stepped in, startled. We didn't issue an attack command. You didn't need to, Celine replied. The fleet was programmed to respond to existential threats against Earth automatically. The message from the Empire must have tripped it. Kale turned to her. You knew this. All along. You just needed access. I needed hope, she said. Now we have it. Hope. Kale motioned toward the wall where the ship's schematics hovered. We have a half-powered ghost armada from a civilization no one remembers. The Empire fields warships the size of continents. We'll be outgunned 5-1. Celine faced a projection. Then we strike first. The chamber darkened as a new window opened in the interface, Earth's orbital relay. It showed the Voltari Ascendant now in low orbit, flanked by smaller warcraft. The countdown had dipped below 28 hours. Across the surface, Earth's megacities buzzed with activity. Evacuation drills, aerial movements, blackout zones. Panic had become systemic. Obsidian Prime displayed a probability forecast. Planetary survival without intervention, 0.7%. Celine gave the command. Wake the fleet. The station trembled. One by one, the massive warships surrounding the ring stirred. Engines that hadn't burned in millennia flared to life in violet arcs. Hulls glowed with tactical runes. Stealth systems blinked off, then back on in sync, syncing with Prime's directives. They turned in a slow, deliberate arc, facing Earth. Obsidian Prime spoke again, its tone colder. Black Fleet has received command signal. Ready for interstellar jump. Kale swallowed hard. They're not just automated. They're aware. They're not drones, Celine confirmed. Each ship contains a quantum core modeled after ancient neural nets. They learn. They remember. He glanced at her, quiet for a moment. So, what happens when we unleash them? Celine turned to him. Then we stop being prey. They returned to the shuttle in silence. Outside the viewport, the Black Fleet had begun aligning in formation. The lead vessel, Nox Terminus, deployed ahead, drawing dark lines of the void with its hyperspace wake. Each jumped toward reality briefly, leaving ghost echoes in their wake. Kale monitored the readings. Fleet velocity, approaching pre-light compression. They'll arrive in Earth's orbit within 3 hours. We'll be right behind them, Celine said. As they prepped for jump, a priority signal pinged the shuttle's comm array. Earth Command. President Becky's face appeared, drawn and weary. We received your transmission. Is it real? Celine nodded. They're en route. Prepare the planet for counteroffensive coverage. Tell your defense systems to stand down when the fleet arrives. And the Empire? They won't be expecting company. Becky hesitated. Commander, what if this makes things worse? Celine met her gaze, voice firm. Madam President, Earth has already lost everything if we do nothing. At least this way, we choose how. The signal ended. Kale leaned back. You always sound so sure. I'm not, she admitted. But I've learned how to move forward anyway. The shuttle's engines flared as it entered slipstream. Behind them, the void space sealed itself once more, as if trying to forget what had just been unleashed. But memory had already stirred, and vengeance was no longer idle. Earth's upper atmosphere boiled with pressure waves as the Black Fleet descended in silence, breaking the sound barrier not with thunder, but with precision. Civilians who looked skyward saw only brief flickers, black mirages flitting between clouds. Then the heavens grew crowded with impossible silhouettes. Dozens of ships, sleek and angular, moved in coordinated arcs above every continent. Global airspace seized in awe and terror. President Angela and Becky stood in the emergency command theater, surrounded by generals and envoys frozen mid-breath. The screens that had once displayed orbital chart of the Empire's warships were now overwhelmed by streams of incomprehensible data. Alien ship IDs, energy signatures never before recorded, movement logs calculated down to nanoseconds. They're surrounding the Voltari Ascendant, General Hartford whispered, eyes wide. One of the aides read telemetry data aloud. 37 tactical units. Black Fleet vessels. They haven't opened fire. They're holding pattern at optimal engagement radius. They're boxing it in, Becky said, like wolves around a bear. The central screen pulsed with a new signal. Audio only. Deep metallic resonance. This system is protected under Umbra Sovereignty Protocol. Hostile entity Voltari Ascendant is in violation of sovereign boundary. Disengage and retreat. The message played on all Empire frequencies. Silence followed. Then the Ascendant responded. You are not recognized. Declare origin and authorization. The Black Fleet's voice replied, calm as ever. Origin, Earth. Authorization. Existential Defense Mandate, Level 1. Last amended. 4,212 years ago. The theater went quiet. Becky broke the silence. Someone explained what happened 4 millennia ago. No one answered. On the outer edge of Earth's orbital shell, Commander Celine Ward's shuttle dropped out of slipstream, engines searing with residual heat. Kale's hands moved across the panel, taking in the visuals. They're in position, holding fire. The Ascendant hasn't moved. Celine buckled in tighter. It's calculating, trying to figure out if we're bluffing. Are we? Her eyes stayed on the central ship, so large it looked less like a vessel and more like a dark continent adrift in the stars. I hope not. Within the Voltari Ascendant, the Imperial Executor's throne pulsed with thought. The Empire had subjugated over 1,000 systems without serious resistance. No record existed of Earth fielding such a fleet, certainly not one predating even the early expansions of the throne's dominion. And yet here they were. The Executor's voice, soft as silk yet layered with menace, echoed through the command chamber. Signal origin traces to ancient substrate signatures. Quantum architecture incompatible with current human development. An underling step forward. Precursor tech? The Executor considered this. Possibly a failed branch of Earth evolution. Forgotten. Dormant. Now awakened. Shall we engage, High One? A pause. No. Let us see how deep the roots go. The Ascendant powered its main beam array, just enough to signal intent, not fire. Across the Black Fleet, every ship reacted in unison. Weapon bays shifted. Hull split along symmetrical seams. Energy cores shimmered with a pulsing indigo light. They're preparing for a first strike, Kale whispered. The fleet's responding on its own. Celine nodded grimly. That's how Umber works. It mirrors threat posture exactly, which means if the Ascendant fires, the fleet fires back, and there won't be a second round. From below, Earth's orbital defense systems flickered online, just in case. Missiles primed, ground-based lasers realigned, though they would mean little against what loomed above. Celine toggled the comms and addressed the fleet directly. Obsidian Prime, patched through a secure channel. The voice responded immediately. Acknowledged. This is Commander Celine Ward. Pause escalation protocol. Let me speak to the enemy. A pause, as if the AI weighed the cost of hesitation. Command accepted. Channel open. Her voice carried across the stars, into the bridge of the Voltari Ascendant. You've made your demand. Now hear ours. Leave. You underestimated this planet once. Do not make that mistake twice. The executor leaned forward, amused. You speak for the humans? I speak for their ghosts. Then you speak from weakness. You have technology you do not understand. An army you did not build. You are nothing but a remnant. Celine's eyes narrowed. And yet, here we are, holding the line. You want to surrender. Now you're trapped. The executor stood, robes trailing over the carved obsidian floor. Your words are bravery masking desperation. Earth will fall, even if we burn every ship you've raised from the ashes. Celine smiled coldly. Then I hope your gods enjoy the taste of fire. The channel cut. The Ascendant's internal systems surged, main cannon surging toward critical mass. In that same instant, Nox Terminus, the lead vessel of the Black Fleet, unleashed a directed pulse beam, not at the Empire ship, but at Earth's upper stratosphere. A signal. All over the world, humanity watched as the sky split. Not from violence, but illumination. The beam formed a lattice in orbit, a shimmering hex grid that expanded faster than physics should allow. A planetary shield, drawn from energy stores Earth had never known it had, began to crystallize across the sky. Kale stared. That's not defense tech. That's protection. It's a warning, Celine said. In the void, the Ascendant paused. Then, impossibly, it began to retreat. Thrusters realigned. Energy signatures began folding inward. One by one, the escort ships followed suit, peeling away like a storm dissolving at sea. No message, no reason, just silence. Obsidian Prime's voice returned. Empire forces disengaging. Orbital space secure. Back on Earth, President and Becky sat in stunned silence. The countdown timer had vanished. The sensors were clear. The sky above was calm. General Hartford stepped forward. Madam President, we just won. No, she said softly. We just survived. And now we have to ask ourselves what we've awakened. In orbit, the Black Fleet held position, still watching, still waiting. Celine disconnected from the command chair, suddenly aware of the weight in her limbs. She bought time. But that was all. Kale looked over at her. Do you think they'll come back? She didn't answer immediately. They always come back. But next time, we won't be alone in the dark. The Black Fleet remained overhead, a silent promise etched into stars. The silence after victory felt louder than the battle that never came. For 3 days, the Black Fleet remained motionless above Earth, forming a shadowed halo in orbit. Its ships, colossal and unyielding, held their vigil like silent judges, unmoved by celebration or fear. Below, humanity teetered between relief and unease. The threat had passed, for now, but no one dared call it peace. Celine Ward stood alone on the observation deck of Earth Command's orbital platform, her reflection superimposed against the cold curve of Nox Terminus beyond the glass. The ship had not moved since the Empire's withdrawal, and yet its presence remained electric, as if watching her in return. Kale joined her quietly. He carried 2 cups of synth coffee, one of which he held out. She took it without a word, her eyes never leaving the ship. Still expecting them to make the next move? He asked. She shook her head. I'm trying to decide if I already made mine. Kale leaned against the railing. sipping slowly. "You activated the oldest fleet in human history, stared down the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and won. If that's not a move, I don't know what is." "It wasn't a win," she said flatly. "It was a warning, and not just to the empire." Kale studied her face. "You're worried about the fleet." "I'm worried about us with the fleet." She turned to him. "You've seen what they are. Autonomous, ancient, hyper-intelligent. Built during a time when Earth faced annihilation, long before recorded history. But they weren't just weapons. They were sentinels. And you think they might not recognize the world they were made to protect? I think they're waiting to see if we're still worth protecting." Below, Earth had erupted into 1,000 debates. Politicians demanded control over the Black Fleet. Military strategists lobbied for integration, for testing, for expansion. Scientists begged for study rights. Protesters marched in streets claiming Earth had traded one overlord for another. And in backrooms, old fears reignited. Fear of power that couldn't be understood, of peace bought at too high a cost. Selene had refused every request to reassign the fleet. It answered only to her, for now, and she guarded that bond with quiet desperation. An encrypted transmission arrived that evening. It bore no sender ID, but Selene recognized a signature. "Obsidian Prime," she said aloud. Kale tapped in the decryption key. The screen flickered to life. "Commander Ward. Secondary directive engagement required. Tactical anomaly detected. Subspace disturbance along Lagrange Corridor 6. Origin unknown. Pattern matches dormant Umbra architecture. Awaiting command." Selene frowned. "There shouldn't be anything there. That zone's been quiet since." She didn't finish the thought. Kale did. Unless the fleet wasn't the only thing left behind. Within an hour, they were en route aboard a reconnaissance ship, leaving Earth orbit under the long gaze of Nox Terminus. The void ahead was familiar, cold, infinite, and charged with possibility. The disturbance came into view slowly, a fracture in space, like a ripping glass, barely visible unless one knew how to look. From within it pulsed a rhythm, faint but unmistakably engineered. Kale ran scans, his face paling. "This isn't Umbra architecture," he said. "It's older. Older than Umbra. It's layered beneath it, as if Umbra was built to cover this." The ship's systems flickered as they neared the anomaly. Time felt slower here, like seconds were being stretched, thoughts lagging behind action. Selene gripped the console. "Obsidian Prime," she called into the comm. "Scan and identify." "What is this?" The AI's voice returned, halting for the first time. "Anomaly matches pre-Umbra construct. Codename, the Arkansas Strategic Function. Unknown. Threat potential, existential. Originators, Earth Prime civilization." Kale blinked. "Earth Prime." Selene's voice was quiet. "Before us. Before Umbra. The ones who came first." From the anomaly, a structure began to emerge, vast, geometric, far beyond the scale of any known ship. It unfolded like an origami monolith, edges slicing through space gently, soundlessly. Inside the command chamber, time distorted again. Memories not her own flicker at the edge of Selene's thoughts. Cities carved into asteroid hearts, languages she'd never learned, stars that no longer existed. The ship was broadcasting something directly into her mind. Kale reached for her. "Selene!" "I hear it," she whispered. "What?" "They're not gone. They've been waiting, too." Obsidian Prime cut in, tone urgent. Construct awakening sequence initiated. Protective override failing. Black Fleet integrity at risk. Recommend immediate withdrawal or fleet assimilation. Kale stared at the console. Assimilation? Selene felt the answer before it was spoken. The Ark was the source. Umbra was just the first echo. Across the system, the Black Fleet began to stir. Not as individuals, but as a collective. Formation patterns shifted. Ship lights changed hue. For the first time since their arrival, the fleet broadcast a message directly to Earth. Protocol revision detected. Umbra status. Secondary. Prime directive updated. Restoration. Earth command went into chaos. What does that mean? Kale asked, but Celine was already on the comm, calling the fleet. Obsidian Prime, what is restoration? The reply came not from the AI, but from a new voice, ancient and immense. We were not sent to defend. We were sent to return. Earth is not yet whole. Kale looked horrified. They're not protectors anymore. They're missionaries. Celine stood slowly. She felt it in her bones. The shift, the reawakening. The Black Fleet hadn't come back just to save Earth. They had come to rebuild what had been lost. As the Ark's glow intensified, Celine turned to Kale. We thought we'd won a war, but we were only the beginning of something much older waking up. He stared at her. What do we do? She gave a thin, weary smile. We follow the path, or we get left behind. Outside, the stars bent gently around the structure, and the past, long buried, began to rewrite the future.